It's time to rank the Friday the 13th franchise, including Never Hike Alone and Sweet Revenge. What's up, everybody? I'm Nick Push. Summer is here, and I thought it'd be a great time to re-rank the Friday the 13th franchise via tier list. If you have been following my channel for quite some time, I'm sure, can't remember, but I'm sure I've made about 12 different Friday the 13th ranking videos. But coming back to YouTube a little bit, slowly, figured, all right, let's get my thoughts back out there and let's rank them. And I thought it'd be fun to do it via tier list. So, as I'm going through this, tell me your top Friday the 13th ranking down in the comments section. And as always, guys, thanks for watching. All right, so here are the categories. So the categories are Higgins Heaven. That is for the best of the best. And I'm going to try to only keep 2 movies in there. I don't want to have any more than 2 because people, I say this on all my tier list videos, people dilute the tier list when they have 60% of a franchise up in the top tier. I don't do that. Next is going to be The Great Garris. I'm not talking about Megan. I'm talking about Sheriff Garris because I love Sheriff Garris. Next is going to be Watch Out for Bears. That's essentially like a B movie, like a B grade, right? Next is going to be Steve Christie's chest hair. Now, Steve Christie has a nice chest, nice body, right? But he shows it off a little too much. So it's not a bad thing, but you don't really need to be showing that much chest hair. So it's kind of middle of the pack there. Think of a C grade. Next is going to be Ted's face. Think of a D grade for Ted's face. And finally, those damn enchiladas. That is going to be dog shit, right? Those damn enchiladas created some dog shit. These movies that are going to be in damn enchiladas are nothing but dog shit. All right, so like I said, it has all 3 Never Hike Alone movies, okay? So it should be interesting. And then Sweet Revenge, which came out, I don't know, maybe a year ago, 2025, something like that. But we're going to get right off the bat here. And the first one on the list is going to be Friday the 13th, Part 7. Tough one right off the bat, all right? So we got Jason versus Carrie, a.k.a. Tina. Where, oh, where should this one be? This is not a good movie at all. Tina's a bland final girl. We do have the introduction of Kane Hodder as Jason, though. A lot of people's fan favorites, not mine. But, Kane Hodder, respect to you, man. And he looks pretty cool. Carl Buechler, did a great job directing this, and obviously with the effects background and all that shit, he made Jason look badass. But did he make a badass movie? The answer is no. So, and keep in mind, while I do this, guys, I might move stuff around as you go because, while you're doing a tier list, you're like, this movie doesn't belong next to this one. But right off the bat, I'm going to put Friday the 13th Part 7 in Ted's face. It's a shit movie. It's terrible. You came off the success of Part 6, Jason's back, and then you delivered this movie. Not good at all. Next on the list, we have Friday the 13th Part 3, 3D. This is a very tough one for me. If we are grading the last 20 minutes and the portrayal of Jason and being Higgins Heaven, no doubt. Richard Brooker's my favorite Jason by far and bar none. I love his performance. But this movie has issues, okay? Jason's lit up like a Christmas tree because they went to 3D and they needed lighting for the special effects. So every time Jason walks out, even at night, there's just all this unnatural light on him, which I don't like. It takes away some of the fear factor. And also the middle of the movie just kind of drags. Right when they kind of get to Higgins Haven, it kind of drags. You got Jason hanging out in the barn. I like the POV shots, and I like the barn. I said barn. But I like the POV shots, but it kind of drags, and these characters aren't interesting enough to spend that much time with. But once this movie gets going, man, does it get going. Like I said, those last 20 minutes are great. There's some amazing shots of Jason here. When he throws down that harpoon gun and turns towards the house where Andy is, where he's about to kill Andy, and that's just crazy. It's such a good scene. There's a scene when hippie stoner guy is, messing with the fuse box, and he gets it lit, and Jason's standing right behind him. That's so fucking good. And this probably has my favorite final chase scene in any, not only Friday the 13th movie, in any horror movie of all time. Yes, I love it that much. Chris, great final girl. Like I said, Richard Brooker, my favorite Jason. But I can't put it in Higgins Heaven, unfortunately, because of what I mentioned, the faults in this movie. But it does belong in the next tier. This goes right up to the Great Garrus. Next, we have Jason X. Um, this movie's all about perception, right? How serious are you going to take this movie? It's Jason in space. Enough said. There's some good kills. It's fun enough, but it just kind of feels like a sci-fi movie, and I'm not invested in any of the characters at all. For me, this one, I feel like people give this one a pass because of the concept, right? And I feel like I'm going to kind of do that too. We're going to put it in Steve Christie's chest here. You know, middle of the road. I'm not taking it too seriously. Uh, that's fine, right? 1 second. Let me move this. There we go. Okay, next we have the movie that came out last year. I guess you call it a movie, right? Sweet Revenge. I watched this once. I don't have much to say about it. I mostly remember like fucking beer can for some reason, and then it just kind of went a little balls to the wall at the end, but nothing too crazy. Um, they're trying to whet our appetite for the next Jason movie, which still hasn't been announced yet or anything like that. I didn't really get the point of this. I'm gonna put it in Ted's face. Wasn't a fan. Next, we have Friday the 13th, the final chapter. Many people's favorite, or at least in the top two, with part six, right? And I'm no exception. I love this fucking movie. I said Richard Brooker's my favorite Jason. Ted White's right up there. You know, he's next in line. You know, I love the characters in this movie, but I mostly love the way it is, you know, just so darkly lit, like back to the original. And this is probably the only Friday the 13th that I would consider, maybe with one other one, scary. It doesn't scare me now, right? I know what happens. But Ted White is great. You know, Tom Savini's back. Tommy Jarvis, the introduction of Tommy Jarvis. Trish Jarvis, underrated final girl. You know, some of the, probably the best deaths in the franchise as a collective whole. They're fucking brutal. Absolutely brutal. From the moment Jason starts, I'm at the hospital, to all the way to the end, to his Jason's own death. Like, it is just fucking brutal. For me, right up to the top, guys, Higgins Heaven. Such a great Friday the 13th movie. And as many people say, it is the quintessential slasher movie, as far as slasher movies go. Next, we have Jason takes a boat ride to New York. My God. Where to start with this, guys? Where do I start? Jason can teleport. Jason's wet. There's Rennie, who's a weak ass final girl, has visions of Jason. They're on a cruise ship that's really like a tanker boat. They spend the last 15, 20 minutes in New York, and Jason's passing up all these victims just to chase them. I do love the New York in the 80s vibe. I'm a sucker for that. But this movie sucks ass. So bad, it's dog shit. It goes into damn enchiladas. Next, we have Freddy vs. Jason. Now, a lot of nostalgia for a lot of us with this movie. Obviously, it's been talked about for years and years and years. It was talked about in like 1987. They wanted to do it. Came out in like what, 2003. I don't hate this movie at all. I just don't. I can't hate this movie. I can't really love it either. They played it way too fucking safe for me. Way too safe. You're almost rooting for Jason. It's just the CG blood is terrible. It's such a product of its time, from the cast to, like I said, the CG effects. Jason's just a hulking idiot. But we still got a Freddy vs. Jason movie. I just think of this like a comic book fun movie, a gift to us as fans. And for that alone, I can't hate it. It's going to go in Steve Christie's chest hair next to Jason X. Next, we have, what do we got? Okay, the first Never Hike Alone movie. For those who don't know, Never Hike Alone Never Hike Alone series is a group of fan films made by, among others, Vincent DeSante, who has been on my channel, by the way. Thank you, Vince. He's been on the channel. Great guy. It's not really saying much. The guy goes on every fucking channel. Guy would go on a channel with 1 subscriber. But anyway, I appreciate it, Vince. I appreciate it. And thank you for coming on and giving me your time. It was fun to talk to you. But anyway, where does Never Hike Alone go? Especially considering we also have to do Never Hike in the Snow shortly and Never Hike Alone 2. So we'll talk about which one's the best here. But Never Hike Alone is interesting. I really enjoy it. I wish I didn't know it was a Jason movie. I wish it was just some fan film that I happened to watch, and all of a sudden, you know, he goes and he sees the Crystal Lake sign, and you're like, holy shit, this is a fucking Jason movie. Unfortunately, I didn't have that experience, but really, really well done. Self-contained story. I like the guy, Kyle, is that his name? You know, it's just him and his camcorder, and then him and Jason have a nice battle at the end, and you get the reveal at the end with Tommy, which was awesome. I'm a big fan of the original Never Hike Alone. I'm going to move it all the way up, believe it or not, to the Great Garrus. That's how good I think it is. Okay? Next, Jason Goes to Hell. Many people's most hated in the franchise, but not mine. Now, full disclosure, I believe I'm blinded a little bit by nostalgia. I remember renting this for like my 12th or 13th birthday or something, birthday party with a bunch of my friends coming over, and we were making fun of one guy who was in the backyard because he was scared to watch it. And as you're 12 and you're watching a movie like this, you know, boobies and, you know, goat blood and guts and shit like that, pretty crazy. Is this a great Friday the 13th movie? No. Is it an okay movie? Horror movie? Yeah. You know, it's a breath of fresh air. If you're binging the franchise, you know, you get the kind of the same old, and then boom, this is different. But this is a Friday the 13th tier list, okay? So where do I put this? Because I think it's a lot better than some of the bad Friday the 13th movies. But as a Friday the 13th fan, I'm going to see Jason, and we barely get any Jason in this. Like, barely. And they introduce all this lore, and the Voorhees house, and swapping bodies, and, you know, Creighton Duke's an awesome character, though. But other than that, God, where do you put it? I gotta go Ted's face for that reason alone. However, I think it's much better than the other movies here in Ted's face. Next, we have A New Beginning, another Jason-less movie, a real Jason-less movie, unlike Jason Goes to Hell. Very interesting. Maybe one of the most dumb entertaining of the movies in the franchise, especially as far as cast of characters go. But it's a sleazy fucking movie. Directed by a softcore porn director, and you can fucking tell. Tommy barely says a word. He's a fucking mute. You know, the kills are mostly kind of half off screen because the MPAA started paying very close attention to this franchise. But is it a fun movie to watch? Yeah, it is. It really, really is. I'm going to put it in Steve Christie's chest hair, but well above the other 2 movies in Steve Christie's chest hair. Next, we have most people's favorite in the franchise, Jason Lives. This is a fun movie. It gets the franchise back on track. It has stakes. You know, probably the only movie where there's like some actual stakes. They're trying to accomplish something, like a MacGuffin type thing. You get Tommy Jarvis back, played by Tom Matthews. Does a fantastic job. You know, kids at the camp, you know, like I mentioned earlier, I have a category named after him. I love Sheriff Garrus. He's in my top 7 or 8 probably characters in this entire franchise, maybe higher, maybe top 5. That's how much I like him. He comes off like an asshole, but he's really not. He's just trying to protect the town, protect his daughter. And he gives his life for his daughter. He's got a brutal death scene. You know, this is, like I said, it's just a fun movie. So is it my favorite? Does it belong up in Higgins' heaven for me? No, it doesn't. It does not. And I'm probably going to have a bunch of people unsubscribe. I'm sticking this in watch out for bears. So I named all these things I like. What don't I like about this movie that I'm not sticking it at the top? I don't like the fact that there's really no tension in this movie. I like kind of like a slow build atmosphere, and this one starts right away. And like I said, it is fun. But for that aspect alone, I like tension. I like slow building, like scenes and stuff like that in a horror movie, especially like in the woods and a Friday the 13th movie. I enjoy that aspect of it, and this movie doesn't really give us much of it. Like I said, it's still in like essentially my B tier. So this is a really, really good Friday the 13th movie. I'm not trying to knock it, but for me, I'd rather watch some of these other ones that I'm putting above it or going to be next to it shortly. That's just how I feel, but I completely understand why people love Jason Lives. Next, we got five left. Next is the OG Friday the 13th, one of the only franchises where the original isn't hailed as the best. Like, sacrilege to say it's not the best, right? This is different. Obviously, Jason only shows up as a child at the end for one of the greatest jump scares of all time. Um, I'm a huge fucking fan of this movie. It's grown on me throughout the years and continues to grow on me. I mentioned the other day on one of my live streams, I love that it's like so dimly lit. You can only see people lit up by like flashlights and the moon and shit like that. That's real. You could argue Mrs. Voorhees is scarier than Jason. I don't really think that, but you could argue that, right? She's fucking psychotic, right? She's yelling, "Help me, help me!" Like that. That's freaky shit. But the atmosphere of this movie is just fantastic. You feel like they're alone in the dark ass woods, and you don't know what the fuck's going on. Is it a great movie? No, I don't think it's a great movie. But as far as this franchise goes, I am a big, big fan of it, and I think it belongs up in the Great Garrus, and I'm going to stick it just ahead of Never Hike Alone. That's how much I like the original, and I know I'm probably in the minority on that. Next, we have Never Hike in the Snow, the follow-up, I guess, to Never Hike Alone, but it was actually a prequel, I believe. So DeSante came out with this. I want to say it was during COVID. That's when it dropped. I stand to be corrected on that. And I remember making a review of this when I first watched it, and my only qualm was, and kind of is still, that it was like 20 minutes long. And I think at that time, if I'm not mistaken, they're going to make a bunch of like 20-minute short movies. But anyway, Jason in the Snow is something that fans have been wanting for a while, and Vince came through and delivered it. As far as the Never Hike Alone movies, it's probably my least favorite. But it's the middle one. It's a prequel. It's like a little short story. Still really well done. That scene with Jason and the arrow is fucking awesome, and I love the way it ends, where it's just like the cop gets his head blown off or something. It just cuts to black or something like that. For me, I'm gonna stick this one in Watch Out for Bears, and Vince should be tickled because it's right next to Jason Lives. Next, we have the Friday the 13th remake. Once again, a divisive movie in the franchise. When I first saw this, I thought it was fucking awesome. Then, some years went by, and keep in mind it's been 17 years since this came out, but some years went by, and not so much, and now I'm kind of like, I'm right in between. Derek Mears is great, Jason. Some cool kills in there, but once again, playing it safe. Way too safe. They introduced a few oddballs, like Jason kidnapping someone that looks like his mom. They had the nice switcheroo at the end where Danielle Panabaker's killed and you thought she was the final girl. It's a lame jump scare at the end. Once again, a product of its time with the cast and the way it's shot. I don't think it's bad. I don't think it's amazing. I'm actually going to stick this in Watch Out for Bears as well. Like I said, it's a well done remake. This could have been a lot fucking worse. I just wish we could have got more Derek Mears. Another movie with him. All right, two left. Now we have Never Hike Alone 2, which is the follow up to Never Hike Alone and Never Hike in the Snow, and it's basically kind of like think of it in the Never Hike Alone franchise series, right? Think of like Endgame, right? This is where all the characters come together. Tommy and the nurse whose son died in Never Hike in the Snow. What's his face from Never Hike Alone? Kyle. They kind of all come together to this crescendo, and it's a really fun fucking movie. Really, really fun fucking movie. Yes, Man, a Different Day. It might be my favorite of the series. Today, I think Never Hike Alone is actually better. I'm gonna stick this in the Great Garris here, or sorry, in the Watch Out for Bears. I really enjoy Never Hike Alone, part two, um, but I like the self-contained story of Never Hike Alone better. But if I'm looking for pure entertainment value, I'm gonna stick on Never Hike Alone part two because it's just entertaining, and bravo to you, Desante. Okay. Finally, we have Friday the 13th part two. Now, this is a quick fucking movie, and there's 7 or 8 minutes of it as a recap of the first, right? Um, Very similar to the original, like almost beat for beat, except Jason's killer. Jason's not wearing the hockey mask. All kinds of different things about this, but a great cast, great characters, from Ginny and Paul to Mark in the wheelchair. Amazing death, by the way. There's just so much to like here with this movie. It's a nice, quick watch. For me, it's not quite as good as the final chapter, but I am going to stick it right up there in Higgins' heaven. I think Friday, the final chapter and part two are neck and neck for the best in the franchise for me, at least for me. So that is my tier list. Tell me your guys' tier list. Tell me your favorite Friday the 13th franchise movie or movie in the franchise in the comments. Thanks for watching, guys, and I'll see you on the next one.